I'm Hayo Schreijer from Dexes, and Dexes is one of the founders of the Amsterdam Data Exchange. And the Amsterdam Data Exchange is an initiative which started actually to make the sharing of sensitive data easier than it is now. And think about sensitive data like data coming from cameras or coming from airplane engines, which are really commercial sensitive data. And now this data is not being shared. And what we want to make easy is the process of actually the legal and organizational part of data sharing. So we know there are a lot of technical solutions to share data, but we see that the bottleneck in sharing data is the legal aspect. And so you have a great technical solution to share your data, like federated learning or anything, and then you have your lawyer or legal person who comes in and says, okay, I have a look at it, and it takes him about 3 to 6 months to solve this and write something down in an agreement. And what we want to do with AMdEX is actually make sure that this legal part of data sharing is really easy. So we provide policy templates which actually say, oh, you want to share data in this way. Well, we have a setup template which actually fixes all. And that is what AMdEX does. It provides a really strong policy enforcement engine, which contains all the agreements and contracts that you have and actually enforces them before you share data, during the data sharing, and after the data sharing. And this is the essence of AMdEX. And AMdEX is a neutral party, like a notary, which is actually neutral in a way that it can say, okay, this was what you agreed on, but I also check whether it was agreed upon and whether you actually behaved like it was agreed upon. That's what AMdEX is. And we're now with AMdEX in the field lab phase, as we call it. We're funded by European Union money. And in this field lab phase, we are together with, for example, SURF, which is a scientific research organization in the Netherlands, and also the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, which provides internet in the whole of Europe for all these big companies. And we're actually doing in the field lab phase use cases. And the use case we're doing for i4Trust is one of these use cases. And the i4Trust case, we're working together with a lot of parties, like the Dutch mobility party KPN, but also with owners of buildings and owners of public spaces, like the municipality of Amsterdam, to see whether we can share sensor data coming from buildings and public spaces and share them in a really safe way to, for example, security people or cleaning people who actually use this data to really be effective in either crowd management or cleaning the outside of the building or the inside of the building. And that's what we're doing with i4Trust. And the really interesting part for us is actually see how iShare, which is a real important component in i4Trust, combines with our AMdEX ID, our ID of policy management. And that's where we said that's the first experiment we're doing. See how we can integrate iShare into this AMdEX scheme that we have. And the second thing we're doing is actually see how can we use the fireware components that the data providers and data platforms and data consumers are using. How can we connect these to this policy enforcement platform that we offer in AMdEX? And so this is the experiment, and we're really happy when we can actually have a real controlled flow from sensors in the Amsterdam area, public spaces and buildings, to this kind of apps that are being used by cleaning companies and crowd managers. And that's what we will show in the use case. I think we should think cross-border from the beginning. And what we do, at least, we know there are a lot of buildings in all of Europe. And Amsterdam has buildings, a lot of Europe has buildings and public spaces. So I think what we're doing here is at least interesting for other cities to look at. But the building blocks we have are actually reusable. The whole of AMdEX is something that's being open sourced in schemes and software, which is being reusable. And the whole concept is based on European standards, which means that at least what we're doing is reusable. And then iShare comes in, and I think iShare offers us a way to make things like AMdEX, and maybe there will be a Paris DEX and a Berlin DEX, and there will be spaces like AMdEX around Europe. iShare makes sure that we can connect these spaces. Then I know if you are searching for information in Amsterdam from Spain, for example, iShare helps you to find me as a company connected to AMdEX. while you are not connected to AMdEX. So iShare for us is really offering this interoperability around Europe. Make sure that everyone is discoverable and you can find at least anyone. And then really the special thing that we need to put a lot of work in is, okay, and when you want to use the data coming from Amsterdam, that's probably something that we need to put a lot of work in, but I think Fireware will help. Having these standards available, which means that you could be able to connect your Fireware app to some data source that's being offered in Amsterdam. So I think the ideas we have are cross-border usable, and the standards are too.